Hi everyone, my name is Pawan Kumar Chaurada, project management professional and certified Scrum product owner. I'm really glad to be here with you today, and it gives me immense pleasure to be a part of Project Edge, celebrating the 25 years of PMIPCC in 2026. So with that, let's talk about what brings us all here today. The changing role of project managers. Sounds like a safe, familiar PMI topic, right? So let me tell you what this talk is not for. It is not a list of new tools to learn. It is not another framework to memorize, or it is not a certification roadmap. Then what it is? Let's discuss this for the next 30 minutes. And before I get into my talk, I wanted to read you something. Let me read it out for you. I began managing concrete and steel. Now I manage systems and strategy. But the biggest change is not the industry. It is mindset. Yes, it is mindset. Me started as a civil engineer on the ground, grew into strategist in the boardroom of an MNC IT firm. With 13 plus years of leading complex projects and programs across infrastructure, smart cities, and digital platforms. Worked across 4 industries, 3 continents, always chasing the harder problem. I don't just run projects or programs, I build the people who run them. Recognized twice for delivery excellence, and I'm a speaker, mentor, and lifelong learner. I improve myself by helping others grow. That is the philosophy behind this talk. Before walking you through the agenda, I want to make it clear that the role of the project manager is changing. And I don't just mean the tools we use or the methodologies we follow. I mean something deeper. I mean the way we see ourselves, the way we define our value, the way we show up in a room as a project manager. So we start with the big shift from executor to strategist. Then we trace our profession's evolution to understand the pressure we feel today. And we cover the new competencies, including the one nobody talks about enough. We get into uncertainty, technology, mindset, and culture. And we close with what the future demands and what you can do about it starting tomorrow. These 7 ideas for the next 25-30 minutes. Let's make everyone count. Let's get started. From executor to strategist. When you first become a project manager, how was the job described to you? For most of us, it went like this. Keep the schedule green, manage the budget, escalate the risks, and report the status. And that is not wrong. Those things still matter. But look at the left side of the slide. There's a PM we were trying to be, like task tracker or process enforcer, and then reporting upward. Now look at the right hand of the slide. Strategic value driver, agile enabler, culture builder, influencing across ecosystems. The job title has not changed, but look at the distance between these two columns. Here is the tension so many of us feel. We were trained for the left column and we are being evaluated on the right. So that the gap between these two were built to be and who the world needs us to become. That is what the whole session is about. The PM evolution timeline. If you see the quick history, because the context matters, right? And from 1960s to 1980s, the iron triangle, cost, time, scope. If those three were green, you were a great PM. Simple. And from 1990s to 2000s, the methodology era, like PMBOK, Prince2, certifications, etc. Structure become our language. And PMI helped to build that. And it gave our profession real credibility. And from early 2000s, Agile disrupted everything. Big plans replaced by sprints, formal sign-offs replaced by continuous feedback. Honestly, some of us are still adjusting, right? And if you see from early 2020s, the strategic era has started. The project managers expected to think like business leaders, understand market dynamics, customer value, and increasingly AI, artificial intelligence. But here is the most important thing on the slide. Each era did not replace the previous one. It stacked on top. You still need to run a schedule. You still need a methodology. You need agility. And now you need strategic thinking. No wonder we feel stretched. And the forces reshaping our progression. So what is actually driving this change? I have highlighted 6 forces. I will be quick but sit with each one. AI and automation. Already doing things that used to take us hours. Like it generates reports, it flags the risks, and does the scheduling. The question is not whether the AI changes our role. It is where does your value moves next. Globalization. You know, Teams across different time zones and cultures. In some cultures, people do not escalate problems. They solve quietly and tell you later. Or not at all sometimes. Cultural intelligence is now a project manager skill. If you see the speed, what used to take 3 years now needs to deliver value in 6 months. The pressure to iterate faster is real and permanent. And the stakeholder complexity, more voices, more accountability. I have managed programs with 30 plus stakeholders. Aligning all of them. No certification fully prepares you for that, right? And value driven delivery. Executives no longer ask, is the project on time? They ask, what value did we deliver? If you cannot answer that clearly, someone else will. And digital transformation, every industry is digitizing. Project managers are at the center of it. Whether we volunteered or not, these are not trends to watch. They are new operating conditions. So the new competencies for new realities. So what does the modern PM actually need? I call this the competency prism, not one skill. It's a combination. Technical acumen still essential. You don't need to write a code, but understand its complexity enough to have the credibility. Strategic thinking. Most of us were never formally taught this. It means knowing why your projects exist, what business outcome it serves, and how it connects to organization strategy. If you see, 56% of the organizations now expect project managers to contribute to strategic planning. This is not optional anymore. And the next best part is like emotional intelligence, the most underrated one. I have seen technically brilliant projects fail because the PM missed the morale had collapsed 2 months earlier itself. Turning into people, that is a real skill. Data literacy, not data science. Just read a dashboard, ask the right question, translate it into a decision. And adaptive leadership. Know when to give direction and know when to step back and let the team lead. If you see the stats that I have stated here, like 72% of the executives says soft skills now matter more than the technical skills in PM hiring. And 68% of the PM says their biggest challenge is stakeholder alignment, not the delivery. The game has changed. The skill that nobody talks about enough is like you can all pass the PMP. You can be brilliant at scheduling and you can be brilliant at EVM. You can run perfect stand-ups or meetings. And you can still struggle because the hardest part of our job is not technical. It is human. Emotional intelligence is not a soft skill. It is a strategic skill. I'll take simple scenario. Your top engineer seems disengaged. A technical PM sees a performance issue. An emotionally intelligent PM asks, "Hey, are you okay? What is going on?" 9 times out of 10, there are something is happening. And the PM who creates the space gets information that change the outcome. Another one, your sponsor starts questioning the direction. A reactive PM gets defensive. A smart PM says, "Help me understand what you are seeing. What's your concern?" That is not the weakness, that is a leadership. IQ gets you the role, but EQ determines how far you go in it. And I say, this as someone who trains project managers. EQ is the hardest thing to teach and the most valuable things to develop. Agility is not a methodology, it's a mindset. So, can we settle something today like the waterfall versus agile debate, or traditional PM versus agile practitioner, or PMBOK versus Scrum, or Gantt chart versus story points? These this debate is mostly a distraction. The real skill is not choosing a methodology, it is knowing when to use which approach. And you know what, most of the successful projects are the ones use the methodology when it should be, and how to blend them when reality does not fit neatly into either box. I have personally run infrastructure projects that needed detailed phase plans and strict change control, and I have led SaaS rollouts, where requirements change every single week. The mature project manager does not pledge allegiance to a methodology. They read the room, they assess the context, they make a smart choice. And the simple rule is predictive when you understand the problem upfront, adaptive when the solution needs to emerge, hybrid, which is most of the time when the reality is missing. Context first, methodology second always. The most common thing I hear from project managers at every level is like, I feel like I'm always reacting, always behind. Welcome to VUCA. It is V stands for volatile, U stands for uncertain, C stands for complex, A for ambiguous. Volatile, scope changed 3 times in 8 weeks of one of my programs. Not because the customer was unreasonable, because the market is moving faster and faster than the business case. And uncertain, requirements that were crystal clear in first 1 month looks completely different by 6th month. That is not a failure, that is learning. The danger is a PM who cannot hold that ambiguity calmly. If you see the complex, one program, 5 countries, 3 different time zones, one delay does not slow one team. It ripples through everything. And ambiguous. Sometimes the hardest job is just getting alignment on what success looks like in the first place. We do not eliminate this, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguous situations in every project. We build the capacity to lead inside it. Shorter planning cycles, faster feedback, clear decision, and honest communication. The single biggest reason technically sounds projects fail, which is stakeholder management, or rather the absence of it. And I wanted to reframe something. We talk about managing stakeholders, but I say we need to lead them. Managing is transactional, leading is relational, right? And if you see the matrix and high power, high interest, your champions, build those relationships before you need them. Have conversations when things are going well. High power, low interest, the C-suite. They do not want your 40 slide deck. They just expect 3 bullets. You need to provide them confidence. That is it. And if you see the low power, high interest group, your end users, and their adoption determines real success. And never underestimates this group. Who knows? The people with high interest and the low power may get into power tomorrow, and they are, you know, who can, determine your product or the project. So do never underestimate this group. And the modern PM stewards those relationships for the entire project life cycle, not just the kickoff meeting. Technology as a force multiplier. So let us address this question in everyone's head. Will AI replace the project managers? My answer is not the right ones. AI is already doing predictive risk and automated scheduling, smart dashboards, and that is not a threat. That is a gift. It handles the mechanical part. We get to focus on what matters the most, right? So what AI cannot replace is like judgment in ambiguity, trust building, and reading an organization's political landscape, creative problem solving, leadership presence. So AI raises the floor. It makes average PMs better. But it also raises the bar because the baseline tasks disappear and what remains is distinctly human work. The PM who ignores AI will eventually be replaced, not by the AI, but by a PM who embraces it. Data literacy does not mean being a mathematician or a statistician. Right? It means asking the right question when you see a number. And value management is not a reporting tool. It is an early warning system. A CPI below 1 in the third week is not one bad week, or it is a signal that about something structural. And predictive analytics, the tools exist now to model schedule risk and forecast completion probability before the red flag hits. And the benefits realization, most project managers close out when the deliverable ships. But did the business get the value as it is expected? The accountability should be ours. And dashboard storytelling. So I stretch on this because every project manager should be like a pro, in the storytelling. Data without narrative is just a noise. Take 3 data points, connect them into one clear story. Where we are, what the risk is, what decision is needed. That is your executive update. And here is the reality nobody wants you about. Most of the people who decide if your project succeeds do not report to you, right? The engineer who builds it, the product manager who owns the roadmap, and the legal team who signs off the contract. None of them are in your reporting chain. So how do you lead without authority? There are 3 things, like 3 C's, clarity, credibility, and the connection. So clarity is like people follow the PM who creates order from chaos. Credibility, show up prepared, keep the commitments. And the connection, invest in the relationships before you need them. That investment pays back the moment a crisis hits. You are the only person in the room with the full picture and the full clarity. That is not a burden, that is a power. Use it to create alignment, not a control. Not to control. So one of the biggest shifts I have seen in successful project managers' careers are like they learn to think beyond their project. Program thinking means seeing interdependencies, making resource decisions that optimize across multiple outcomes, having strategic conversations with the leadership. And portfolio thinking goes further. Why do we invest here and not there? How does this connect to our 3-year strategy? That is the language of the C-suite. Quick challenge. Think about your current project. Can you say in 2 sentences how it connects to your organization's strategy? What is the business outcome? Not just the deliverable. Right? If yes, great. If not, there is a work to do. Execution is table stakes. Strategic contribution is the destination. And this is the heart of everything I wanted to say today. So all the tools, all the frameworks, and all the certifications, they matter. But none of them produce transformation without a shift in how you see your role. And 5 shifts, each one has made a real difference in my own work. Own the outcome, not the plan. Plans changes, outcomes do not, right? Stay attached to what you're ultimately trying to achieve. Solve problems together. When your team knows you are safe to bring problems to, you hear about risks early. When they are afraid of your reaction, you hear them late. The environment you create determines the information you receive. And your success is your team's success. The best project managers multiply talent, they give credit freely. Their reputation grows, not despite that generosity, but because of it. And risk and information, not failure. Early risk identification is a strength. It means you are paying attention. Build the bridges. Project managers should always act like a bridge. The PM who connects silos, becomes central to how the whole organization functions. That is a valuable place to be. These shifts do not require a certification, they require a decision. And one more thing that I think is deeply underappreciated is like project management is one of the most culturally influential roles in any organization. You set the norms, how meetings runs, how conflicts get handled, how wins and failures get acknowledged. The culture of a project team is largely shaped by its project manager, right? How you respond the next time someone brings you a problem. In that single moment, you are shaping what they will tell you the next time. Safe environments get honest information. Fearful environments get polished updates that hide the real story. Which one do you want? Every organization right now is somewhere on a digital transformation journey, and the PM is almost always the center of it, right? Here is what I have seen repeatedly. Organizations invest in the new technology, goes live, and they declare success 2 years later, not getting the expected value. Why? Because digital transformation is not a technology project. It is a business transformation that happens to be enabled by technology. Why you put new softwares on top of old processes? You do not transform, you digitize the chaos. Implementation is a project, adoption is a program, value realization is a mission. So you as a project manager should always keep your eye on the mission. So what does the future ready project managers actually look like? I have highlighted 6 qualities, like strategically aligned, who connects daily decisions to long-term value, and digitally fluent, who uses AI and data as force multipliers, not as threats. Emotionally intelligent, leads with empathy and reads the room. And PM should be adaptively agile, holds uncertainty without becoming paralyzed. And also PM should be perpetually curious, should be always, learns continuously across disciplines. And the final one is the most important one, is like deeply human. I save this for the last because I believe it is the most important one. In a world where AI handles more mechanical work, and the judgment, empathy, trust, and the presence, this becomes our ultimate competitive advantage. Lean into those judgment, empathy, trust, and presence. That is where your value lives. And let me conclude with these 5 things, carry them out of this room today. First one is like expand your identity. You are not just a planner or a tracker. You are a strategic contributor, a, a culture builder, a value driver. The second one is like human skills take you further than technical ones. EQ, communication, stakeholder relationship. These are the hardest and the most impactful skills we have. And the third one is like embrace technology. AI frees your capacity for the things only you can do. So judge, connect, inspire, or decide. And the fourth one is lead with outcomes, not the outputs. Deliverable close projects, outcomes builds careers. And the fifth one is your mindset. is your most powerful tool. The shift from control to enablement starts with a decision, not a budget, not a promotion. It's a decision. The shift is available to each of us right now. The role is changing. The question is, are you changing with it? Thank you.